Most people have never run this calculation. Not because it's hard, because nobody told them it existed. Take your monthly take-home pay. Subtract rent or mortgage. Subtract groceries. Subtract the car payment. Subtract utilities, subscriptions, gas, insurance. Whatever is left, that's your number. Most Americans find a number between -$40 and +$200. That's it. That's what's left after everything the modern life costs to run. Now here's the question nobody asks. If that's your number every month, how does anyone ever reach $100,000 in savings? The answer is that the people who get there don't do it by having more left over. They do it by making a decision so early in the month that the math never gets a chance to happen. The money moves before the spending does. And then something else happens, something nobody warns you about. The number in the account grows, and the person carrying it starts to change. Not loudly. Not in any way you'd notice at a dinner table. Quietly. Almost invisibly. Polly noticed it on a random Wednesday in March. She was 34. She worked in supply chain logistics in Columbus, Ohio. She earned $73,240 a year. Not bad, not remarkable. Exactly the kind of income that sounds fine until you map it against what things actually cost in 2026. She had been doing one thing consistently for 6 years. One thing. And on that Wednesday, she opened her banking app while waiting for her coffee to finish brewing, and the number on the screen read $101,847. She did not scream. She did not call anyone. She closed the app, poured her coffee, and went to work. That moment, that quiet, unremarkable moment, is what this video is actually about. Not the number, the behavior that created it. And the invisible shift that follows when someone crosses that line without announcing it to the world. Because here is what the personal finance industry never tells you. The people who build real, lasting wealth are almost never the ones talking about it. They are the ones who figured out a calculation, ran it once, set it in motion, and then got on with their lives. And by the time anyone around them figures out what happened, the gap is already too wide to close. So let's run that calculation. Let's talk about what Polly actually did. And let's walk through the 15 behaviors that separate the people who reach 100,000 quietly from the people who talk about it and never do. Here's where we start. A number that most people never sit with long enough to feel the weight of. $100,000. Say it slowly. $100,000. In a country where the median personal savings account balance is $8,000, that is not a typo. Reaching 100,000 means you have already done something the majority of working Americans will never do. Not because they couldn't, because they never made the first decision that sets the whole thing in motion. The first decision is not about how much you earn. Polly was not a high earner. $73,240 a year breaks down to about $6,103 per month before taxes. After federal, state, and FICA, she took home roughly $4,490 a month. Her rent in Columbus was $1,340 for a one-bedroom. Her car, a 2019 Honda Civic she bought used, cost her $387 a month. Groceries ran about $310. Utilities and phone together, $215. She had one streaming service, no gym membership. Her total fixed costs landed at $2,252 a month. That left her $2,238 in theory. In theory. Because that $2,238 is where most people's plans collapse. That number hits the checking account and immediately starts shrinking. A dinner out, a new jacket, a weekend trip someone suggested on a Tuesday, an Amazon order at midnight. By the 28th of the month, that $2,238 has become $190, and nothing deliberate happened with any of it. Polly had done that. For 3 years after college, she had done exactly that. She called it the invisible drain. Money she technically had, spent on things she could not fully remember 2 weeks later. And then one afternoon, she sat down with a notebook. Not an app, a physical notebook, and wrote down every purchase from the previous 30 days. It took her 40 minutes. When she was done, she looked at the list and felt something she described later as quiet embarrassment. Not shame, just a clear-eyed recognition. She had been the author of her own shortage. That was the first decision. Not a budget, not a savings account, a 40-minute moment of honesty. After that, she did one mechanical thing. She set up an automatic transfer of $850 every first of the month, moving from checking to a high-yield savings account earning 4.6% APY. Not 1,000. She didn't trust herself with 1,000 yet. 850. An amount that was uncomfortable but survivable. An amount that forced her to be more deliberate with the $1,388 that remained without creating so much pressure that she'd cancel the transfer in month 2. She did not tell her coworkers. She did not post about it. Her mother asked once if she was saving, and she said yes and changed the subject. Her friend group was in the habit of splitting expenses on trips and dinners. She joined when she wanted to and declined when she didn't, and nobody pushed too hard. 6 years later. 6 years of that $850 transfer, occasionally bumped up when she got a raise, always automatic, always first of the month. She had $101,847. With interest compounding on the HYSA, her actual contributions over 6 years totaled roughly $68,400. The remaining $33,447 came from interest. She had been paid $33,000 for doing nothing except not canceling an automatic transfer. Can you guess what she did differently than most people? It wasn't discipline in the way motivational posts describe it. She did not white-knuckle her way through 6 years of sacrifice. She made one decision: automate first, and then spent 6 years not having to make that decision again. That is the mechanism underneath every person who reaches 100,000 quietly. The decision happens once. The system runs, life continues, and nobody notices. Now let's go through the 15 behaviors. These are not tips. They are observable patterns, things you can see in a person if you know what to look for. And if you're watching this and recognizing yourself in them, that recognition matters, because it means the path is already under your feet. Behavior 1. They automate before they spend. Not after. Not with what's left. Before. The transfer happens on the first of the month, or the day after payday, before any discretionary spending has a chance to compete with it. This is the single most mechanically important behavior on this list. Everything else is secondary. Polly set her transfer for the first. When her direct deposit hit on the 31st, the $850 was gone by morning. She never saw it available to spend. This is not discipline. This is architecture. The money moves before your brain has a chance to negotiate with it. Behavior 2. They drive the same car for longer than feels normal. Not because they can't afford a new one, because they ran the math and chose not to. The average new car in June 2026 costs $49,700. The average new car payment is $738 a month. Over 6 years, that is $53,136 in payments, plus interest, plus depreciation. Polly's 2019 Civic had 74,000 miles on it. She had spent $2,200 on maintenance over 2 years. The gap between what she spent and what she would have spent on a new car, $50,936, didn't disappear. It moved into the savings account. People who reach 100,000 quietly are almost always driving something that surprises you. The car is the tell. Look at the car. Behavior 3. They don't explain their financial decisions to people who didn't ask. This sounds minor. It is not. When you stop defending your choices, why you didn't come on the trip, why you're not upgrading your apartment, something shifts internally. The choice becomes less about what others think and more about what you're building. Polly was asked twice in 6 years why she didn't just get a newer car. Both times she said it runs fine and moved on. That was it. No elaboration. No need for the other person to understand. Behavior 4. They treat savings rate like a percentage, not a dollar amount. This is a mathematical habit that changes everything. Polly didn't save $850 a month. She saved 18.9% of her take-home pay. When she got a raise, the percentage stayed the same and the dollar amount went up automatically. She never had to decide to save more. The raise went directly into an increased transfer. This is why high earners who think in dollar amounts often save less than moderate earners who think in percentages. The percentage scales. The dollar amount gets spent. Behavior 5. They have one account the money goes into and they rarely look at it. Not never. Occasionally to confirm it's working. But not daily. Not even weekly. The psychological effect of watching a savings account daily is underestimated. When it dips, even temporarily, people panic and make bad decisions. When it grows, people get excited and feel permission to spend elsewhere. Polly checked her AC on the 1st of every month when she set her transfer. 12 times a year. The account did its job. She did hers. That separation, between knowing the system works and watching it constantly, is harder to maintain than it sounds. Behavior 6. They know their actual monthly number, not a rough estimate. The actual number. Fixed costs, variable costs, average monthly total. Polly could tell you within $40 what a normal month cost her. Most people are off by $300 to $600 when they estimate their monthly spending. That gap, that $300 to $600 of mystery spending, is exactly where the savings should be going. The people who reach $100,000 quietly almost always did a notebook exercise at some point and got honest. Most people skip that step. Not because it's hard, because the honesty it requires is uncomfortable, and discomfort, when optional, gets avoided. Behavior 7. They don't lifestyle inflate after every raise. This is the silent killer of savings potential in America. Someone earns $58,000, gets a raise to $64,000, moves to a slightly nicer apartment, upgrades the car, eats out a little more. By the time the year is over, the raise is entirely consumed. Polly got 3 raises over 6 years. The first one she used $200 a month to increase her savings transfer. The second one, she put the entire amount into savings. The third one she split. $150 more to savings, $100 more to spending. Her lifestyle improved slowly and deliberately, not automatically. That's the difference. Most people who don't build wealth aren't bad at earning. They're bad at letting a raise change the savings line before the spending line. Polly changed the savings line first, every time. Behavior 8. They use credit cards like debit cards. Full balance paid on the 15th, every month, without exception. The average American carrying a credit card balance pays between 21 and 24% APR. If you carry $4,000 on a card at 22% APR, you are paying $880 a year in interest alone. That is not a small number. That is $880 that cannot compound, cannot grow, cannot do anything except transfer from your pocket to the bank's revenue line. Polly had one credit card. She used it for everything. The rewards added up to about $340 a year in cash back. She paid it in full every single month. The card worked for her. It never worked against her. That $340 a year in cash back over 6 years is $2,040, paid just for using the card she was already using. Behavior 9. They understand the difference between an emergency fund and a savings goal, and they treat them as 2 separate accounts. Most people skip this structural decision and it costs them. Polly had $8,500 in a separate checking-linked account, about 3 months of her expenses, that she called untouchable. Her HYSA was completely separate. When her car needed a $1,340 repair in year 4, she did not touch the HYSA. Not $1. The repair came from the emergency account. She rebuilt it over 4 months, and the savings compounding never paused. This behavior costs nothing to implement and saves thousands in lost compounding. Think about what compounding means here. If she had pulled $1,340 from the HYSA in year 4, that money, left in place, would have earned an additional $487 in interest over the remaining 2 years. She kept $487 by having a separate account. That's the math hiding behind a simple structural decision. Behavior 10. They make financial decisions slowly and spending decisions even more slowly. Not paralysis, deliberation. Polly had a rule she never articulated out loud but followed consistently. Anything over $200 waited 72 hours. Not forever. 72 hours. In that window, roughly 60% of the purchases she considered never happened. Not because she talked herself out of them. Because after 72 hours, she simply didn't want the thing anymore. Impulse spending has a half-life of about 48 hours. She just outlasted it. That rule. One rule, never posted anywhere, never told to anyone, saved her an estimated $4,200 over 6 years. Behavior 11. They don't outsource their financial awareness. They know what their HYSA is earning. They know what their retirement account is allocated to. They are not obsessed. They just know. Because knowing creates a relationship with the money that makes it harder to be careless with it. Polly's HYSA was earning 4.6% APY when she hit $100,000. She knew that meant her money was generating roughly $388 a month in interest without her doing anything. That number, $388 a month, became motivating in a way that no motivational video ever had been. It was just math. Real math. Her math. When you know your actual numbers, the abstraction disappears. Money stops feeling like something that happens to you and starts feeling like something you are directing. The next behavior is the one most people find hardest. Not because it requires money. Because it requires a specific kind of internal clarity most people are still working toward. Behavior 12. They are not trying to impress anyone with their financial life. Not peers, not parents, not social media. This sounds like an attitude, but it has mechanical consequences. The average American spends an estimated $7,400 a year on what researchers call social spending. Purchases made primarily because of how they will be perceived by others. Dining at restaurants to look successful. Clothing upgrades for status. Vacations posted and shared. Cars chosen for impression. Polly was not immune to this. But at some point, she did the math and realized that $7,400 a year at 4.6% for 10 years becomes $90,700. She kept a smaller social budget. Not zero. Smaller. Deliberate. And the people around her didn't notice the difference because she was still present, still engaged, still herself. Just not performing. Behavior 13. They talk about money differently when they do talk about it. Less about what things cost, more about what things are worth over time. When Polly's coworker mentioned buying a new $51,000 truck, she didn't say anything critical, but internally she had already run the number. $51,000 at 10.5% annual return over 10 years is $138,200. That truck, in her mental accounting, cost not $51,000 but $138,200. That reframing of every major purchase as an opportunity cost changes the emotional weight of the decision. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "What is this actually costing me?" The people who build wealth quietly have almost all made this mental shift. And once you make it, you cannot unmake it. Every price tag has a second number underneath it. Behavior 14. They have a number, a specific, written down, non-negotiable target that they revisit once a year. Not a vague goal like save more or be better with money. A number. Polly's first target was $25,000, then $50,000, then $100,000. Each one written in that same notebook. The specificity matters because vague goals produce vague behavior. A specific number creates a specific gap between where you are and where you want to be. And the brain, given a specific gap, will quietly work to close it in ways you don't fully notice until you look back 6 months later. The number is not motivation. It is orientation. You cannot walk towards something you haven't named. Behavior 15. They treat the savings milestone not as an arrival but as a foundation. This is the most important behavior on the list. It is the one that separates the people who reach 100,000 and stop from the people who reach 100,000 and accelerate. On the Wednesday morning, Polly saw $101,847. She felt something she described as steady, not excited, not relieved, steady, Like a building that now had a foundation solid enough to build on. By the following Monday, she had increased her automatic transfer from 1,100 to 1,350. She didn't celebrate the milestone. She used it as a platform. That steadiness, that quiet, unannounced recalibration is what the 100,000 actually teaches you. It teaches you that the system works, that the math is real, that patience is not passive. It is the most active financial decision you can make, because while everyone around you is chasing the shortcut, you are already 3 years ahead and nobody has noticed. Let's go back to the calculation we started with. Take your monthly take-home, subtract your actual fixed costs, look at what's left. Now ask yourself, what percentage of that number are you moving? Automatically, before anything else, into an account that compounds while you sleep? If the answer is 0, you now know the first decision to make. If the answer is something, you now know it can be more. And if the answer is already 15% or higher, if you are already doing this quietly, without announcing it to anyone, then there is a decent chance that you are already further along than you think, and that the people around you have no idea. Here is what that actually looks like in numbers, one more time, so it lands. Polly. 4,490 take-home. 850 automatic transfer on the first. 4.6% APY HYSA, 6 years. $101,847. Her contributions, $68,400. Interest earned, $33,447. Time required to set it up, 11 minutes. Number of people she told, 0. The gap between her and someone who earned the same salary and did nothing automatic with savings, after 6 years at 4.6%, is not 68,400. It is 101,847. Because the person who did nothing has 0, and 0 does not compound. That is the real cost of waiting, not the amount you didn't save. The amount you didn't earn on the amount you didn't save. The second number is always bigger than the first. Here is something worth sitting with. $100,000 in a HYSA at 4.6% APY generates $4,600 a year in interest. That is $383 a month for doing nothing. $383 a month is a car payment. $383 a month is 3 months of groceries. $383 a month is what some people work an entire side hustle to earn. Polly earns it by having crossed a threshold 6 years ago and not touching the account. The threshold is not magic. It is math. But the math only works if you start. Most people who watch videos about money feel motivated for about 48 hours. Then the feeling fades and the system, whatever system they were already running, reasserts itself. The people who actually change something do one mechanical thing within 24 hours of the feeling. Not a big thing. One thing. One transfer set up. One account opened. One number written down. Because behavior change that depends on sustained motivation almost always fails. Behavior change that gets locked into a system on the first day has a completely different survival rate. Polly did not stay motivated for 6 years. She set up a transfer on a Tuesday afternoon in March, 8 years ago, and that transfer has been running every first of the month since. Motivation had nothing to do with years 2 through 6. The system ran. She lived her life. The number grew. Nobody noticed. Until now, in this video, where you are watching the math work in real time through someone else's story and wondering if the same math would work for you. It would. The math does not care about your income level, your age, your past mistakes, or how many times you've tried and stopped. The math only cares about one thing, whether the transfer is set up. That is the whole secret. Not a secret that anyone is keeping. A secret hidden in plain sight by its own simplicity. The transfer. Automatic. First of the month. Before anything else gets a chance to compete with it. 15 behaviors. One mechanism. One decision. And 6 years later, or 10 years later, or 4 years later, depending on your number and your rate. A Wednesday morning where you open an app and see a number that surprises you. Not because you didn't know it was coming, because you forgot to watch it arrive. There will be people in your life who notice something is different before they can name what it is. You seem less stressed about money. You don't react the same way when something expensive breaks. You decline things without apologizing for it. You make decisions without consulting anyone else's opinion on what you can afford. These are not personality changes. They are the behavioral outputs of a person who has financial ground to stand on. And that ground, that specific, numeric, compounding foundation, changes how you move through every other part of your life. Not loudly, not in any way you'd post about. Just steadily, quietly, invisibly. Polly is at $101,847 on a Wednesday in March. By the end of this year, at her current rate with interest, she will be at $116,200. By year 3 from now, assuming no additional raises, she'll be past $145,000. The numbers compound, the behaviors compound, the confidence compounds, and somewhere in there, she will cross another threshold, a number she already has written down in that notebook, and she will feel that same thing she felt on Wednesday. Steady, not excited, not relieved, steady, like someone who knows where they are going and is already on the road, and the only question that remains is how far they decide to go. The first transfer takes about 11 minutes to set up. The account is free. The math works whether you believe in it or not. The only question is whether you set up that transfer this week. This week, not next month, not when things calm down, not when you get the next raise, or whether you keep waiting for a better month that looks exactly like this one. Because here is the thing about the better month. It doesn't come. Not on its own. The month that finally works is the month you decide to make work. That's it. That's the whole formula. Polly closed the app on a Wednesday morning and went to work. She had $101,847. She told nobody. By the time anyone figures out how far ahead she is, she will be somewhere the gap cannot be closed. That could be you. Not a version of you that earns more. Not a future you that has fewer problems. The exact you that is watching this right now. The math doesn't care if anyone is watching. It runs anyway. The only variable it needs from you is the first transfer. 11 minutes. One account. 1% of your take-home pay moved automatically before anything else competes with it. 6 years from now, or 4 or 8, depending on your number, you will open an app on a random morning. And the number on the screen will surprise you. Not because you forgot what you were doing, because you got so good at letting the system run that the arrival feels quieter than you expected. And you will close the app and pour your coffee and go to work. And nobody will know. The math is already waiting for you. The only question is whether you let it start.